Hello, whether you just started learning Chinese or are an advanced learner, in this video I hope to show you the 5 most important features of Chinese grammar that I think every learner of Chinese should know. My name is Dan Jiesu. I'm a PhD candidate and a teaching fellow at UCLA. As a researcher and a teacher, I try to bridge the gap between linguistic research and language teaching, and I'm passionate about making language learning, especially Chinese, easier. I have a friend who speaks several languages fluently, and then one day I asked him, which one is the most difficult for you? And he said, Chinese. And I asked him, why? He said, because it's empty. Everything is empty. The grammar is empty. There's no marking of verb tense. You don't know whether the noun is in singular or is plural. And he's right. He's right about that. But Chinese does has its grammar. It's just that it's very different from that of typical Indo-European languages such as English. So in this video, I want to show you the ways that Chinese differs from Indo-European languages. First one. Lack of inflection, which means Chinese words don't inflect for grammatical categories such as tense and numbers and aspects and etc. So here is an example. Okay, I want you to try to translate this sentence into English. So the Chinese sentence is 我去图书馆. A is I went to the library. B is I go to the library. C is I am going to the library. And D is I will go to the library. And guess what? The answer is A, B, C, or D. They are all possible. So as you can see, the verb here, 去, which means to go, does not inflect for verb tense. Okay, so if Chinese does not rely on inflection to mark these grammatical categories, then what does Chinese rely on to express this kind of grammatical meanings? Here comes our second important features of the Mandarin grammar, which is the reliance on grammatical words and sentence patterns. Here is an example. In this sentence, 他30岁才结了婚, which means he didn't get married until he was 30 years old. With the use of the grammatical word 才, the speaker is indicating that getting married at the age of 30 is too late. Now compare it with this sentence. 他30岁就结了婚, which means he got married when he was 30 years old. With the use of the grammatical word 就, the speaker is indicating that it is very early to get married when you are 30 years old. With the use of different grammatical words, you can express different meanings. Here is another example, and I love this example. This example is about what I call the broken window problem. So let's say if somebody broke your window, in English you would have an active sentence such as, he broke my window. Or you can say, my window was broken by him. But in Chinese, there are so many options. In fact, there are so many grammatical options at your disposal that you may get lost. So you can use an active sentence, a typical subject, verb, object sentence, or you can use a 把 sentence. And this 把 sentence is literally the most famous grammatical structure in Chinese. And I've read hundreds of research papers on the study of 把 and a few books on 把. A great part of my dissertation is also on 把. Okay, anyways, so these are the active options. You also have some passive options. You have marked passive, which means that you use a grammatical word to mark the passiveness. For example, you can use a 被 sentence, 被 passive, or a 让 passive, or a 叫 passive, or a 给 passive. Okay? Or you can use a unmarked passive, like this one. So, given all these grammatical options, how do native speakers make the choice? In fact, this is a very challenging question, and I think it's the key to revealing the real grammatical capacity, which is the ability to choose the best option for a given communicative context. And this is the exact research topic of my dissertation. Okay, anyways, I just want you to know that Chinese grammar relies a lot on special sentence patterns. Number 3, reliance on word order, which tends to follow temporal sequence. I want you to look at this example and translate it into Chinese if you know Chinese. The sentence goes, I read a book on the bed. How do you say that in Chinese? It is, 我在床上看书. Notice that the location phrase 在床上, which means on the bed, goes before the verb 看书, to read a book. So literally it is I on the bed read a book. Why does the location phrase comes before the verb to read a book? Now let's look at the temporal sequence of these two actions, or these two activities. In order to read a book on the bed, you've got to be on the bed first, and then you can read your book. So the temporal sequence of these activities in real life follows this order. On the bed, and then read a book. And that corresponds to the word order of this sentence. Okay, now let's translate this sentence into Chinese. I put the book on the bed. Notice that the English word order is the same as that of the first sentence. They both have the subject I at the beginning of the sentence, and then they both have the verb read a book and put a book, which follows immediately after the subject, and then they both have the location phrase at the end of the sentence. However, if you translate the second sentence into Chinese, it's going to be very different from the first Chinese sentence. And if you know how to translate that, good job, because it involves the use of a 把 sentence. 我把书放在床上. Notice that here, the word order of the Chinese sentence is different from that of the first sentence. In this case, you have the subject, and then you have the object book, and then you have the verb to put. Finally, you have the location phrase 在床上 on the bed. Why is it that in the first Chinese sentence, the location phrase goes before the verb, whereas in the second Chinese sentence, the location phrase goes after the verb? Is it just random? If you look at the temporal sequence of these two activities in real life, you'll see why the Chinese word order of the second sentence is like this. In order to put a book on the bed, you've got to have the book first. So you first grab your book and put it on the bed. So the ending point of this series of action is that the book is on the bed. That corresponds to the word order of the Chinese sentence. You first grab the book, put it on the bed, and then finally the book is on the bed. I hope these two examples can show you an important feature of the Chinese grammar, which is the reliance on word order, and in many cases, it tends to follow the temporal sequence of the activities in real life. Okay, now move on to the fourth most important feature. Topic prominent. What does that mean? Well, let's look at this sentence. Okay, if you want to ask a question, do you like to eat Chinese food? You may say, 你喜欢吃中国菜吗? Which means you like to eat Chinese food and a question mark. However, you may hear Chinese people say, 中国菜,你喜欢吃吗? Which literally means Chinese food. You like to eat? So it translates into, speaking of Chinese food, do you like to eat it? So this is a topic comment sentence. In this case, Chinese food, 中国菜, is the topic, and 你喜欢吃吗 is the comment. Usually, if the topic is known, Chinese people tend to use this topic comment sentence. And you can see this feature in some other Asian languages such as Japanese or Korean, but not the case in English. I want you to pay attention to this kind of sentences because you will see this a lot in real-life Chinese conversation. Okay, now let's look at the last one, contextual, which means ellipsis is very common. For example, Chinese people would drop the pronoun if the context is clear. Now let's look at this example. In how many ways can one answer this question in writing? Here is the English sentence. Do you eat an apple every day? And the Chinese one. 你每天吃一个苹果吗? If the answer is affirmative, you can say, yes, I eat an apple every day. Or in Chinese, you can say, 是，我每天吃一个苹果. Or you can drop the verb 吃, you can say 是我每天一个苹果. However, you don't say that in English. You don't say, yes, I an apple every day. In Chinese, you can further drop the pronoun and you can say 是每天吃一个苹果. However, you don't say that in English. And you can even drop the object. You can say 是每天吃一个. For the Chinese sentence, you can even drop more things. You can say 是每天吃. Okay, I hope this example can show you the contextual feature of the Chinese grammar. It is a very important feature of Chinese grammar. Now let's do a fun activity. Here I have two versions of a poem. One of them is an authentic one. It's a famous Tang poem. Many Chinese people know it. The other one is a fake one. I just make it out myself. Okay, the first one goes, Pine under asked the boy, said master away, picking medicine. Must be on the hill. Clouds heavy, not know where. The English translation of the second version goes, under a pine tree, I asked a boy, and he said, my master is away, picking the medicine on earth. He must be somewhere on the hill, but the clouds are so heavy, I don't know where he is. Now, which one makes more sense to you, A or B? If we look at the English translation, we would think that B makes more sense, right? Because we have everything here. We have the subject, I, as a boy, whereas the A version has no subject here. But actually, A is the real one. So Chinese people just love this kind of stuff. A lot of the things are left out in writing or in speech, and you just have to figure it out yourself based on the context. I guess the Chinese language does provide an excellent opportunity for the Chinese people to practice mind reading. You've got to be able to read other people's mind if you communicate with Chinese people. Okay, now how does the last feature relate to your Chinese learning? Now here I have an example, which is actually a real example from one of my students' essays. So here is the English sentence. Because I don't want my mom and dad to worry about me, I'm very careful when I drive. 因为我不想让我的妈妈和爸爸担心我，我开车的时候我都很小心。This is a grammatical sentence, but it is not native-like. Look at the word I and me here. There are 4 in the Chinese sentence. A Chinese native speaker would translate this into the following sentence. 因为不想让爸爸妈妈担心，我开车的时候都很小心。And you can see that there's only one use of the word I here in the sentence written by a Chinese native speaker. I hope you can pay attention to the contextual feature of the Chinese grammar when you're writing and speaking in Chinese. Okay, to summarize, here are the 5 most important features of Mandarin grammar. First, lack of inflection. Second, reliance on grammatical words and sentence patterns. Third, reliance on word order, and the word order tends to follow the temporal order. Fourth, topic prominent, which means Chinese people tend to use a lot more topic-common sentences. And finally, contextual, ellipsis, such as pronoun dropping, is very common. Alright, I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope to share more videos with you on learning Chinese. Thank you.